Good evening, everyone. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and the earth. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more. For the first things have passed away. We are gathered here in this Jubilee Chapel to celebrate the life and honor the memory of Paul Linder Lau. We are drawn here by our common love, our common respect, and our common grief. This is certainly an occasion of sorrow, but may it also be an occasion for thanksgiving, because we are thankful for the gift of life, and we are thankful that Paul Linder Lau lived among us. He led an exemplary life of service to God and humanity. We are here to thankfully remember his life and commit ourselves to follow in his footsteps.
O God, we come to you this evening with both sadness and thankfulness. We are sad that we lost our friend, but we are thankful that we had him all these years. As we celebrate his life, may your presence be with us, that in thanking and praising and even expressing grief, we may do what is pleasing in your sight. O God, you have given us everything. Give us one thing more, a grateful heart. Amen.
Praise A reading from the Holy Bible, Isaiah chapter 55, verses 6 to 11. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him, for he is near. Let the wicked forsake their way, and the unrighteous their thoughts. Let them return to the Lord, that he may have mercy on them, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain and the snow come down from heaven and do not return there until they have watered the earth, making it bring forth and sprout, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes out from my mouth. It shall not return to me empty, but it shall accomplish that which I purpose, and succeed in the thing for which I sent it.
I'm just reading a brief message from the brother of Dr. Paul Lowe and his sister-in-law Ruth Ann. This is just an introduction before the message. Paul Lowe comes from a very close-knit Lowe family. Over the years, he have come to know all the members of the family. We have particularly established a close bond with Paul G's elder brother Bruce Lowe and sister-in-law Ruth Ann, through Paul G's stories about them, and also through the production of the book Love in Madurai that we lovingly put together and dedicated to Paul G's dear brother Bruce Lowe. 2015 has been particularly difficult for Bruce and Ruth Ann to deal with 2 issues in 2 months. When Paul G was unwell, Bruce and Ruth Ann continued to be a big emotional support for our Paul G through their frequent letters and phone calls. We now know that the whole Lowe family is very special. Here is a brief message from Bruce and Ruth Ann. The Reverend Paul Linder Lowe was blessed with not just 1 but 2 callings. He loved to teach and was always thrilled when a student was able to keep the meaning of a phrase in his native tongue and translate it into another language. Paul also loved people. The students he saw daily and the many he welcomed to his home in Madurai for discussions, often with the college's professors and very often for lunch or a meal later in the day. All were Paul's friends and associates in learning, and he learned from his friends just as much as he guided others to their adventures in education. This is a brief message from Paul's sister-in-law Ruth Ann. Paul was 86 years old and he lived and worked in India for more than 60 years of his lifetime. And he was a very lucky man. Each one of us wants to succeed in our chosen profession. But when Paul first went to India after graduating with degrees from the College of Worcester, Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary, Northwestern University, his family in the United States thought his job at Baring College in Batala, Punjab might be of very short duration. He worked hard teaching and learning, and after some years, Paul made a move into a new position at a college in America. No, to American College in Madurai, far south in Tamil Nadu. Paul worked hard there, learning and teaching, and he fell in love. He fell in love with American College. his colleagues, his students, with his life in India, with the energizing challenges of skillet. He was happy, and even more, he was at home. How many of us can be so lucky to be in the right place in the right time to live out a life's career? Paul knew he was that lucky person, and we, his American family, are so thankful to all of you who became his Indian family for welcoming him so completely, appreciating him for who he was, and loving him all these years. It was meant that his life and yours were destined to be shared for the good of each of you. Thanks be to God in his wisdom. Here is a brief message from the close friends of Paul Love, Robert and Vanda Abrams. Robert and Vanda Abrams have been long-time friends for Paul Love. They provided a home for Paul G. in Louisville during his visits to the U.S. This amazing couple in their 90s have worked in India for many years, like our Paul G., as co-workers of the Presbyterian Church of India. Bob Abrams has been a colleague, friend, and family. Here is his brief message from them. Paul spent his early life in Louisville, where his father, Dr. Julian Price Love, was a much loved and respected faculty member of Louisville Presbyterian Theological Seminary. The Love home was in the same area of our home, so Paul enjoyed visiting us. He described the pasture where his group of boys ran and played, a university with dormitories, chapel, and an athletic field now occupy that entire area. Paul was an exceptionally gracious gentleman who knew how to listen to whatever a person had to say, even if he must have been bored occasionally. His whole attention gave respect, deserved or not, and his easy way of replying in his soft voice provided an example to follow. He is missed already by all of his friends and colleagues, but we rejoice in his enduring faith in Christ and that his suffering has produced a new beginning for him. Paul claimed enthusiastically to be a Louisville man, so that date, May 2nd, is appropriate for this gathering. May 2nd is the date of the famous Kentucky Derby, a very special day in Louisville when thundering hooves of 20 horses seek the finish line. It is a very special day in Madurai also. Peace and blessings to all.
Paul Linder Love came to us from Punjab in the year 1980. I consider myself blessed that I have been able to work along with him for the past 35 years. I do not know I deserve to stand here, but I am asked to do that, so I am here. I stand here not as a student of Paul Love, because he was a very demanding teacher and I am a very rebellious student. But I have been again able to work along with a lot of students of Dr. Paul Love. So, Dr. Paul Love has the mind of a philosopher, the heart of a poet, and the soul of a Sufi. And he has touched a lot of lives in Madurai and also in Batala. So I consider Dr. Paul L. Love as God's gift to American College. So it is our duty to live up to the message that he has given us. The singer is gone, the song remains. The teacher is gone, but the teachings remain. And we should try very hard to live up to the high standards that he has kept. The Skillet Library is not merely a library, a collection of books. It's a community of scholars. And that is the greatest living monument that we can give to perpetuate the memory of Dr. Paul Love. He built that library not brick by brick, but book by book. And it's the result of his blood, sweat, and tears. It is not an exaggeration, it is factually true. So we owe a great deal of gratitude to Dr. Paul Love, but that gratitude has to be expressed through our action, in our action, because it's very easy to pun on the name Love, but he has taught us, but he has taught his students. Punning is the lowest form of wit, but you cannot but resist punning on the name Love. The name that he bears represents that kind of love which makes no demands and asks no questions. So let us resolve today, while we celebrate that great life, that we shall do everything possible to hold up that message and take Skillet to greater heights.
You can shed tears that he is gone. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all he is left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he'd want, smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. I will read two messages, one from Janet Love and another from Mallory Love. Before that, I'll read a short introduction. We feel we know the whole Love family, junior and senior Loves, because of Paul G's narration of his family anecdotes. Paul G's dear nephew, David Love, passed away on 22nd February 2015. David was like Paul Love, not only in his looks, but also in character. We got to know of his wife, Janet Love, through her Caring Bridge Communications. She once wrote, "David and Paul are cut from the same material. We mourn David's loss and fondly remember his life with Paul with gratitude." We were very happy to get to know Mallory Love, Paul G's niece, when she visited Madurai and when we went on a shopping spree. Here are the messages from Janet and Mallory. I wish David were here to give his remembrances because Paul was so special to him. They were so alike in their intelligence, kindness, patience, and regard for others. Here is my remembrance. I made it short. It contains some of the thoughts that I emailed earlier. I think Paul was very special to me because he and my husband David were so alike. I could see clearly that his wonderful intellect, kindness to all, and patience were so like David. We were blessed in the last few years with more frequent visits from Paul, and we felt lucky to have the extra visits. Those visits brought such happiness and joy to our little family. David always held Paul in the very highest regard possible, and our daughter Elizabeth lit up whenever she was around him. I was always in awe of his kindness and endless patience, as well as sincere interest in Elizabeth and all of us, even Scampers, our boisterous little dog. Elizabeth loved his company from the time she was very little. He always took her thoughts and observations seriously and treated her with great respect and love. I could see that he had a hand in influencing her mind and spirit. She will always have wonderful memories of his visits, as will I, and for that I will always be grateful. I know that all who knew Paul knew how great a man he was, so very special, so very uniquely kind and wonderful. He is with David now, and that comforts me because I know how much they both deserve to have everlasting peace. We'll always love you, Paul. Message from Mallory Love. On behalf of my sisters Katie, Colin Love, and I, we share heartfelt words about our dear Uncle Paul. He was a kind and giving man, and although we did not have the closest geographic relationship with our great uncle, we still thought of him often and fondly. It's a much different thing to think of someone than to remember them. One is much easier on the heart to do. And although I would much rather think of Uncle Paul, remembering him will not be a difficult task to accomplish as well. He had a voice that when you heard it, you knew it could only have belonged to one of the few love men. A voice that dictated wisdom, kindness, and love, all in the unique, beautiful baritone who we all came to know so well. He always spoke with purpose and passion, such a passion that when spoken to, you couldn't help but stop and listen intently to every word, something that is not easily found today, let alone in our youthful generation. Our moments with Uncle Paul will always be greatly cherished. We all had much to learn from him and still do. I am forever grateful that I was able to visit his home in Madurai and experience Paul's treasured life there, his dear friends, and his beloved university. Uncle Paul took me on a great adventure those few weeks, and I would not trade those memories for the world. My wish is to return one day with my sisters so that they may be surrounded by the love and kindness that I know will always exist there for any member of the Love family. I only hope that you will take comfort in knowing how much you all meant to him, his family away from family, and how much you mean to us for loving our uncle the way you did. We can hope that he is now with his nephew, our Uncle David, and at peace with the legacy, love, and knowledge he left behind. Thank you. Mallory Love.
Count your blessings, name them one by one, is one of my favorite hymns. This week, we have been receiving hundreds and hundreds of messages from the old students, and they all seem to refer to Paul Love as a great blessing in their lives. I know that for the rest of my life, I will keep counting all the blessings that I have received and enjoyed through my matchless mentor and friend, Paul Love. Paul Love has my father's name and some of his noble qualities. Paul G's mother and my mother share a common name, Evelyn, a familial cord right there. Not all people are blessed to receive unconditional love from people other than their parents, but I received that in abundance from Paul Love. But thousands of friends from Batala and Madurai swear that they received the same unconditional love from Paul Love. This is because Paulji makes each one feel very special. His love excludes none. Even in the 1980s, Paulji used to act as a vibrant networking site, long before the virtual sites were ever thought of. Paulji believed in the face-to-face interaction and in handwritten mail, and he totally disliked Facebook and the publicity of it. In life, in death, Paul remained the magical denominator, and he continues to unite people, unite generations, unite cultures across continents. Paulji is essentially a student's person, believes that the teacher has absolutely no identity minus the students. He could relate to students of all age groups because he himself remained a wide-eyed learner till the end. A poor or high achiever in academics, a disciplined or erring student, all received his open arm acceptance. An anecdote that I'm never tired of repeating illustrates a nobility so typical of Paulji. Once I saw Paulji getting his guest room ready for a young boy. The boy was visibly under the effect of drugs or liquor or both. I was annoyed with Paulji's insistent hospitality. I felt the need to discourage Paulji for his safety and also for his reputation on campus. Paulji did not react. He did not even give me any scope for intervention. As I was leaving, Paul stepped out of his house and told me very gently, "Premji, don't you think he is safer here than outside?" Paulji has the unique ability to focus on the needs of others than his own. He has turned around the lives of young students and curbed their adventurism by merely accepting them. Now, the guy whom I wanted to throw out, that guy is an important IT person. They become eager to prove themselves worthy of Paulji's trust and acceptance. Another time, Paulji's gardener had to undergo a major surgery. Dr. Samsi Bose did a surgery on him that lasted for 6 hours and refused to take any fees. That was his major contribution. Paulji took it a step further. He knew that the recuperation would be slow and difficult. His spontaneous act was to get his guest room ready again. And he made sure that the convalescing person had food and medicines at the right time. And he helped him regain his health. All of us present here would probably sit around and narrate a number of such amazing acts of Paul love. Paulji makes his action seem so simple. Sharing of his space seems so simple. We can all judge the character of a person by how he treats somebody who cannot really do anything in return for him. Paulji's circle of friends kept enlarging every day. Even in his last days, Paulji could spread cheer, reach out to people, draw people to himself. The doctors, nurses, and other workers, he knew them all by name. Their eyes went moist when he greeted them with a smile, a pat, or a firm handshake, because they knew that the end was coming. The way Paulji hummed "Abide with Me" in the ICU, in his baritone voice, is a poignant moment that will remain with me. Paulji wanted to write thank you notes for all the nurses and doctors, and it never got done. Now, on behalf of Paul Love, the American College, the Indian family scattered all over the globe, and the Love family, junior and senior Loves in America, we sincerely thank Dr. Samsi Bose, the chief medical consultant, Dr. O.R. Kumaran, Dr. Meenakshi Sundaram, Dr. Bharati Sundar, Dr. Devananda, Dr. T.V. Shekhar, Dr. Meena Priyadarshini, Dr. Jagadish Pandian, and Dr. Rajesh Prabhu for being a solid support. We remain grateful for your smiles, assurance, encouragement, and for being accessible all 24 hours. We really cannot thank you enough. Dr. Haripriya and Dr. Aravind, we thank you for your spontaneous offer of help in our troubled moments. Thank you, Dr. Usha and Dr. Kim, Chitra and Tulasi Raj, for always being there for us, a team that we could count on. Well, time and again, I have heard people refer to Paul Love as a saint with infinite patience. But his students and friends know better. We would never distance our Paul G as a saint, a cold other. He certainly has saintly qualities, but he's a fun-loving, ordinary person with extraordinary qualities. We never put him on a pedestal because we didn't need to. We felt very much equal to him. The string of images that appear and reappear before my eyes in my consciousness would not qualify him as an idolized, distant saint. Paul G's boisterous enjoyment of MGR movies, his vibrant dancing to Tamil Kuttupattu, standing in the long queue with students to watch a Tamil film the day of its release, his loyalty to Amir Khan over the two big other Khans, his difficulty in choosing between the songs of Ilayaraja and A. Rahman, or on a mundane level, choosing between Amsavalli and Chandanan Mess Biryani. Paul G simply loved life, and he loved appreciating life with people. Paul G is a people's person. People talk about Paul G's infinite patience, maybe because they see it in the backdrop of Nayarji's level of patience and mine. I have an interesting collection of narratives on Paul G's impatience, but his anger or impatience could be easily traced to the disruption in his sacred engagement with the students. In the 1980s, it was the poor typewriter that was at the receiving end, never us. He would never ever utter a harsh word that he would want to take back. Well, Paul G certainly has saintly qualities. There is no denying that. He never writes off anyone. He always finds redeeming qualities in critics or even serial offenders. In the 3 decades of my close association with Paul G, I have never ever heard him speak ill of anyone. Big words like forgiveness are irrelevant because Paul G simply accepts people as they are. His response to a high decibel argument would be a balmy smile, and that is bound to disarm anyone. Paul G's non-hierarchical, easy egalitarianism is admirable. It comes very naturally to him. Even when he relates to children or plays Scrabble for long hours, it is not a busy adult setting aside some time to entertain children. He enjoyed the company of children as much as he enjoyed the company of adults. Children always felt equal to this gentle giant of a man. Paul G is a meticulous planner and able executor of his plans. He would always plan the next day's work before leaving the office at night so that we could start work right away on arrival the next morning. We would sometimes find gentle reminders on our table. We have always appreciated Paul G's attention to detail when at work and also his impeccable methodology. After Paul G's passing away, we appreciate his meticulousness even more. His words leave no scope for speculation, no ambiguity for interpretation. His simple message of adequate planning in work, in life, will live on. Paul G has left behind many lessons for us, some learned and some very hard to learn. His work ethic is something that keeps us in awe of the man. He loved the American college deeply. When fantastic offers were placed before him, his loyalty and commitment to the American college remained intact. Paul G's deep Christian faith was reflected in his actions. We call it applied Christianity. When Paul gave sermons in the chapel, he never carried a deadpan expression. His smile used to radiate from the pulpit. His voice resonated joy. Paul G's life demonstrated a happy, non-judgmental, sensitive, and inclusive Christianity. And for this influence of a happy, inclusive Christianity, we remain grateful. This week, we have been frequently and constantly talking about our dear Paul G, both in Skillet and with student groups. And I found that they all seem to merge past tense with present tense in a single sentence. I tend to do the same. I know that we will never ever consign our Paul G to the past tense. Our Paul G will certainly live on with us, in us and through us, urging us to plan work well, execute work meticulously, so that we can realize our full potential as individuals and as an institution. Now is the message from Carol Love. I have known Carol Love quite well for more than 15 years. She spent a month with us in Madurai, trying to understand Paul G's work in Skillet and the American College. She got to know many of us very well. She is the third generation Love family member to come out of the Louisville Theological Seminary successfully. Here is her message. The title, The Joy of Paul Love. When one experiences pure joy, it is remembered. That is where so many of the memories I have of my uncle Paul Love are rooted in pure joy. I found joy in my uncle's eyes, how they would sparkle and smile when he looked upon those he loved. I recall the joy in his voice when he spoke of exciting things going on at Skillet, or as he whistled an endless tune while completing a mundane task. I experienced the joy of his heart when he gave me a glimpse of his adopted India, its sights, its customs, and its people. How could you meet Paul Love and not have a morsel of this joy rub off on you? When I was informed of Paul's grave health, I worried that his joy might die with him. But I knew that a joy such as his could not die. A joy such as his, rooted in love, could only flourish and grow. The people he loved, his friends and students so dear, would continue to share his joy through their own memories and teachings. The Study Center for Indian Literature he so joyfully helped create would continue to blossom with many skilled authors completing works under this legacy. And the gift of a month-long tour of South India would become one of my most joyful experiences of my life. Each year, my uncle would return to the United States for a brief visit. Most likely, he had opportunities to stay. Yet each time, while perfectly content on being here, we knew he was preparing himself to return to those he loved in India. His joy was rooted in you, his colleagues, his friends, his family. No doubt you will miss Paul Love as we will. However, it is written in the Gospel of John 16:20, very truly I tell you, you will weep and mourn, but the world will rejoice. You will have pain, but your pain will turn into joy. I pray Paul Love's joy will continue to live on in each one of you. Most sincerely and with deepest thanks for each of you, Carol Love, Paul Love's niece.